From an ancient virus suspended in ice to a mysterious box filled with treasure, these are the most bizarre things found when ice started to melt. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button to become part of the DTR family and that little bell icon so that you are notified when we post new videos. Number 12. Arctic copper mummies. Zeleny Yar, an ancient necropolis in Siberia whose melting permafrost revealed the mysterious remains of an adult and child mummy. It has been an ongoing archaeological excavation site since 1997. They weren't the first mummies discovered there, though. There have been over 100 discovered. But these bodies were not only covered in canvas, but strips of copper had been laying over them. Experts think that they are most likely from the medieval period and hope every new discovery will lead them to new information about the ancient Arctic peoples. Number 11. Fish mid-eating another fish. The frozen body of one fish eating another is almost unbelievable, and the photo that made social media rounds had everyone saying that it couldn't possibly be true. Two brothers fishing in Indiana's Lake Wawasee came across the disturbing block of ice that engulfed a pike which was in the middle of enjoying a bass meal. The brothers even shared a video when they were cutting out the fish from the frozen lake to prove that they were not lying. It does raise curious questions about how the pair of fish ended up frozen in the lake. The best explanation is that the pike could have choked and died midst chowing down on the bass, and the duo, later on, became frozen solid in place. 10. Millions of grasshoppers. Grasshoppers and locusts rain nothing but havoc whenever they infiltrate, and millions of them manage to ruin a whole glacier. The insects were found holed up in a mile-long Cook County glacier, now dubbed the Grasshopper Glacier. A 1914 analysis confirmed that they were a species thought to have gone extinct 200 years before. The swarm probably got caught up in a storm while passing over the mountain ranges, making the glacier their final resting place. They stayed frozen in place with years of blizzards covering them up. Besides the Grasshopper Glacier, there's also the Hopper Glacier in the Beartooth Mountains, overrun by these frozen insects. 9. 32,000-year-old seeds. You can't make some things up, and as incredible as it may sound, Russian scientists managed to regrow wildflowers using 32,000-year-old seeds sported by an Ice Age squirrel. The scientists came upon the stash of frozen seeds along the Kolyma River. They had been buried 124 feet underneath a permafrost layer. Impressively, the scientists used the tissue from inside the seeds to grow viable plants. Once the seeds germinated, they sprouted out flowers that in turn produced more crops of grain. 8. 30,000-year-old gigantic virus. French biologists Chantal Abergil and Jean-Michel Claverie were inspired by Russian scientists who had previously regrown wildflowers using 32,000-year-old seeds. However, in their case, they decided to try their luck with a virus. Just like something right out of a sci-fi movie, they managed to regenerate a 30,000-year-old frozen virus that was still infectious. Dubbed Pittavirus cybericum, they fished for the virus from permafrost samples in 2014. The virus was also quite gigantic, and fortunately, it only attacks amoeba. Despite its size, the virus is mostly empty on the inside, unlike most others that pack genetic material. 7. 25-million-year-old lake. Russian scientists uncovered a lake hidden 2 miles deep beneath Antarctica's frozen landscape in 2012. Lake Vostok turned out to be the largest subglacial lake in the continent, and it supposedly existed for millions of years in complete isolation. The scientists who discovered it also found alien-like samples within, and after analyzing the bacteria, they revealed that it was unlike anything they had seen before. However, others believe that the drilling fluid might have tainted the samples. The same team went back to the area in 2015 to find out what else could be hidden beneath the permafrost, and they stumbled on another mysterious bacteria. In 2016, it was announced that yet another similar isolated lake lay hidden beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. Number 6. World War I Battlefield Spoils. Wars are terrible events in history which leave a trail of destruction behind. Glaciers began rapidly melting due to global warming back in the 1990s, and the town of Pello in northern Italy uncovered remnants from World War I. Artifacts, photos, diaries, love letters, and sadly, the bodies of soldiers emerged from the melting glacier. However, most people lost their lives due to the extreme cold conditions as well as avalanches rather than the war. The majority of the people who lost their lives in the mountains were mostly male teenagers. More bodies eventually became uncovered as the ice continued melting, and a local mountain guide came across the bodies of 3 Habsburg soldiers up the mountainside in 2004. Historians even stumbled upon a fully preserved cabin underneath the ice. Inside it, they found several ammo boxes, men's clothes, and steel helmets belonging to the men who fought during the White War. Some of the bodies were identified, helping to give their families closure several decades after the war ended. Number 5. Cretaceous-era Graveyard. We can all agree that dinosaurs are quite fascinating, but they always sound like mythical creatures until newly discovered remains remind us that they once roamed the Earth. A Chilean glacier uncovered a perfectly preserved early Cretaceous-era graveyard with 46 complete specimens of the ichthyosaurs. A team of international scientists uncovered the dinos better known as fish lizard at Chile's Torres del Paine National Park. The remains dated back to around 100 to 150 million years ago, and the scientists even found embryos and soft tissues buried in the frozen grave. The largest of the skeletons measured more than 16 feet in length. Researchers believe that the fish might have met their end after being caught up in an avalanche before finally ending up in the glacier. The fish lizards lived alongside all other kinds of dinosaurs, but they were amongst the first to die out when climatic conditions led to their extinction. Number 4. Box of Treasure. Some things are simply unbelievable sounding, more like the storyline of a big-budget Hollywood movie, but then it turns out to be true. In 2013, an anonymous hiker scaling Mount Blanc happened upon a box containing an obscene amount of treasure. It had an assortment of 100 jewels, including sapphires, rubies, and emeralds worth about $300,000 in total. The honest hiker handed the box over to French law enforcement officers who went about searching for their rightful owner. The box of jewels was traced back to a 1966 Air India flight that had unfortunately crashed on the mountain. 117 passengers on board all died, and the weather and location prevented search rescue teams from ever finding the plane. Bits and pieces from the wreckage appeared over the years that followed, including the jewelry box. Law authorities treated the case with a veil of secrecy while searching for the rightful owner. 2 different families ended up claiming ownership of the box, leaving a cliffhanger about who eventually ended up with the loot. That was not the only treasure discovered up the mountain, and in 2014, Daniel Roche, who was a French treasure hunter, found 50 jewelry pieces that had melted out of the glacier. 3. Iron Age Tunic. It isn't uncommon to find discarded articles of clothing along hiking trails, but archaeologists have discovered a host of ancient items melting out of Norway's glaciers. They unearthed several interesting things from the centuries ago that people presumably carelessly dropped along the way. Over 2,000 artifacts have surfaced from the Oppland County alone, which is believed to have been our ancient ancestors' major thoroughfare. Scientists also found mittens up the mountains, but in 2011, they discovered one of the fascinating items was an Iron Age tunic. It dated back to 230 AD and 390 AD and had been covered up with equally ancient horse droppings. 2. Anthrax-attacked reindeer corpse. When you think about reindeers, Christmas comes to mind. But a carcass uncovered in western Siberia in 2016 almost ruins the image. The decades-old reindeer had succumbed to anthrax, and after it surfaced, about 1,200 other reindeer around the region also died immediately. Scientists theorize that decades back, the reindeer may have passed on the infection to 15,000 nomadic locals, which wiped them out as well. The surfacing of the reindeer corpse was also said to have led to 40 people being hospitalized suffering from anthrax symptoms. The anthrax strain was the same one that had been weaponized, and to contain it, the Russian government had to get the help of biological warfare specialists. Number 1. OTZI the Iceman. Most of us have heard about OTZI, who is the Copper Age man found amazingly well preserved high up the Alpine Mountains in 1991. He lived between 3500 to 3100 BC, and up to this day, scientists are still trying to figure him out. Helmut and Erica Simon, who found him, reported that OTZI had been the victim of a mountaineering accident. They couldn't have been more wrong, because studies revealed that he was a real wonder in every sense. Research revealed that OTZI most likely has 19 relatives living around Austria's Tyrol area. He also, sadly, had a tough life because he exhibited signs of suffering from gum disease, gallstones, frostbite, Lyme disease, hardened arteries, and he even had elevated levels of arsenic in his body. OTZI also had some incredible tattoos that researchers say he got through acupuncture. He was also found carrying an axe which he had likely journeyed with all the way from Tuscany. Research also revealed that his last meal was dry-cured ibex, much like the way we currently make bacon. Thanks for watching. Coming up next is deep-sea creatures scientists spotted by chance.
7 remotely operated vehicle captured the image of the bobtail squid, which is less than a foot long. The bioluminescent sea creature of the Sepiolida order can control the brightness of its glow. They have a close relation to cuttlefish, but they spot a rounder mantle. The squid also has 2 tentacles and 8 suckered arms, which look like very thin human fingers at first glance.